Hello everyone, can you hear me? There is a reaction tab below my video, so can you please react? Oh, great, thank you. Hi everyone again, my name is Anastasia Prosina. I am the founder and CEO of Stellar Amenities. This is really a new tool that we're using. Our Meet is it's an online tool that replicates physical events, and I'm really glad that we're partnering with our Meet. And so basically, we're gonna discuss today, space travel, what it entails, and also uh, how we designers can shape our future as multi-planetary species. And here on the right, you can see chat, and then you also can see questions. So please, whatever throughout the conversation, please ask any questions that you have. And at the end of the session, I try to answer to as many questions as possible. So anyway, let me pull over my slides. Okay, sounds good. You can see my slides, right? Yeah. So give me 1 second. So yeah, again, thank you so much for coming. So Stellar Mantis is a company that complements space habitats with highly functional, comfortable places. Complements with comfortable and lightweight elements that actually reconfigurable. So basically, it's about creating small spaces in space that feels bigger than it is. And our company mission is to lower behavioral health risk and boost the crew's productivity in order to enable the multi-planetary future of humanity. And thank you again, LA Design Festival, for having us. It's such a pleasure. I actually attended LA Design Festival a year ago. It was such a fun event. Um, and then, so as I said, we are the company. We're pretty much architecture bureau with an architect, space architect in the team, and also origami artist as well as interior design. And together we want to revolutionize the entire experiences in small space habitats. And today's agenda for our talk is to really discuss what's happening, what's going on in our space industry right now, why I'm actually here, why I'm working on things that I'm working on, whether it's even feasible, whether it's just sci-fi, or it's really happening, and we could see Mars and lunar missions really soon. So first I'm going to start with the in next 5 years of human space exploration. And then next, we're going to jump in, going to the moon and Mars, what it entails, what are risks we're going to face. And then third is what's the design role and design principles in space exploration. So basically, probably that's why you came here to listen to this lecture. And then just a little bit about Stellar Mantis, what we work on to prevent these issues that's going to happen in space exploration. And then in the end, we're going to have Q&A session where you can ask any questions. And as I said before, you can ask questions in the tab on the right. So and then later on, I will just go ahead and check them out. Um, so the next slide. So the now next 5 years of human space exploration. So we probably all saw what's going on in terms of SpaceX. They launched very first manned space mission um, to the ISS. They really just showed that this is really possible for a private space entity to pretty much send people to the ISS, to International Space Station. So on the May 27th, the company um, scheduled to send two astronauts into space. And it's really the first time that Elon Musk's spacefaring firms has ever launched a human. And it's really tell us that humanity is at the turning point in the history of space exploration and development, and new industries are being born that use space in many different ways. Small startups and large enterprises have sprung around the interest and are paving their ways towards spreading human presence, and sending people to space is becoming much cheaper. That's enabling this new business to develop. And companies like Axiom Space. So Axiom Space is a company that is promising to launch a very first private space station by 2024. And then Elon Musk claims that the first manned mission to Mars will depart in the mid of 2020. So it's pretty much in 5 years. Can you imagine that? And then, whereas NASA plans to send humans to the same destination in the mid 2030s. And it's pretty much, well, I really believe NASA more, but we'll see how it really unfolds. And then there is a video I want to show you. It's uh it's just Virgin Galactic. They recently announced the interior design of their capsule, of their space transportation vehicle, and I just want to show you how cool it looks. Okay, I hope you're excited because it's extremely fun to live in this period of time when everything is just rapidly developing, and I just cannot wait that the prices is actually going to be down a little bit, because it's like $250,000. It's not affordable yet, but same time, in comparison to the space flight that, for example, you can schedule to go to the International Space Station, that will cost you just millions of dollars. So it's like this is really a great alternative, and it's not, you're not actually staying in space. It's like kind of fly through, and then you can enjoy all the benefits being in space for a short period of time. So I think it's great. And then, so next, oh, it's again. There's another company that's just recently announced that they're going to launch their balloon by 2024. Then they're taking up the passengers, and it's going to cost around $100,050 to go. So let's check that out. Talking about going back to the moon. At this time, Let me see if people can hear me. You can hear you now. Can hear you now. So guys, you can hear me now, right? Sounds great. NASA is planning to send people to the moon, not only just to, set up the flag, but also to set up our first habitats and our first settlements in order to stay on the moon sustainably, in order to stay on the moon for a longer period of time. And many people think that in NASA, including that this mission is kind of a test bed for a mission to Mars. Um, and so yeah, as I said, we are going to the moon by 2024. There's a huge competitions between private companies who is gonna send their first lander, who is gonna be building, infrastructure there. And SpaceX, they're also launching their Starship. Just pretty much, you probably heard about this concept of Starship that basically says that in the future we will be able to send up to 100 of people to Mars, and it's going to be pretty much like a Martian airline. And in order to test that before we all actually go to Mars and then avoid any disaster, we first need to test it on the moon, because the moon is only 4 days away. And this really implies the phrased approach to human exploration in deep space. The moon will be the proving ground for the technology and processes that we will bring to Mars. And so, as I said, this is going to be a phased approach. This is obviously we first want to bring some robotics and bring habitats, and then from 2024 start our human activities on the moon. And you saw in the video it's a Gateway Space Station. This is pretty much what's gonna ISS be replaced by. This is orbital habitat for astronauts that's gonna orbit the moon. And the promise of this vehicle, the promise of this structure is to, extract water from the moon, have all the resources from the moon, and actual launch from the moon to Mars. That actually saves a lot of fuel and a lot of things that you need to bring with you, a lot of supplies. And and then give space missions possible orbits of Mars. That's going to happen in late 2020s. And then, by the way, this is the plan that is NASA. This is NASA's plan. SpaceX has a different plan, and SpaceX promises that we're going to see people on Mars by 2020. Well, they actually say in the middle of this decade, so nobody knows exactly when, but we'll see. And so, according to NASA, in the middle of 2030s, we're going to have humans land on Mars. And let's get into the design section and what actually going to the moon and Mars entails. What are the problems that we're going to face, and what we actually need to be prepared for. So human access to space entails numerous risks, especially in long-duration missions like a trip to Mars. A crew chosen for this adventurous yet historical mission will struggle with the limits of their living and communal spaces, which can increase the chance of conflict between crew members. Challenges of being isolated can be mitigated by applying human-centered design, which really entails tactile textures, warm colors, a certain palette of colors, and ever-changing spaces. For example, lightweight partitions that you can actually place where you're gonna work, so you pretty much have your isolated space, and then you can change this. You can take this partition and place it in your living quarter. And then, so performance and relationships between crew members are closely tied to a space mission success. So it basically means that if your crew member doesn't get along with you, it's really likely that the mission is gonna be failed. the mission that been spent, billions of dollars, and there's huge hopes for this mission that it's gonna break and it's gonna be failed, and it's because of some conflicts that happened within a team of astronauts. And so at Stellar Matrix, we believe that our practice of human-centered design will lead to successful missions, thus making humankind multi-planetary, because it actually means that if we can make our space habitat second homes, it means that we will decrease the chance of missing Earth, because astronauts, they usually report that they miss the sound of rain, the changes in temperature, the changes in humidity, and it's not. So far, we never replicated such senses on the International Space Station, and this is really what we're striving for. We try to create the senses. We try to recreate what actually our biosphere, what actually our ecosystem Earth can give us in terms of different experiences. And then, given the extended duration of current and future missions and the isolated, confined, and extreme environments, there is a possibility that adverse cognitive or behavioral conditions will occur, affecting crew health and performance, and mental disorders could be developed. In terms of external factors that could affect human health, they're quite clear on the importance of a comfortable environment. As NASA report of 2015 says, factors external to the individual include those who might be beyond the control of the individual, such as radiation exposure, and habitability is the biggest risk towards human access to space after radiation. So it's a huge thing, and so far there's no such attention that been paid to this problem. NASA is still in a nascent um, uh, period of time that is picking up on these problems. But so far, there's no such an improvement that's been done on the International Space Station. So this is actually how space habitats look like right now. This is, as you can see, not really pleasing and comfortable environment to live in. And it's really about creating environments that you want to live, and it takes more than an engineer to design successful spacecraft, and it takes more than an engineer to design a spacecraft that gets people to want to go to space, because all these wealthy rich people that actually can afford to go to space, they could go, but it doesn't seem appealing to them to go to space right now. And it's just really about, it takes more than wealth to go to space and buy a ticket. It takes people to really want to go to space, and it's really a difference between people saying, "How can I afford tickets to go to space that would cost something like my house?" When really people should say is that ticket to space is so affordable. All I have to do is sell my house. It's difference. It's just really a difference of perspective, difference of value. Getting people to want to go to space is what makes space affordable. It's not, well, you probably heard that the launches are getting cheaper and cheaper, but also the 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 want the will of people wanted to go to space is so should be increased. Um, so So there's restrictions on how inexpensive you can make space travel as long as we use rockets, because it's always going to be a factor, and it will be higher dollar amount. And what makes something affordable is not depending how much you want it. It's depending how much you want it. If Lamborghini would cost $10,000, that's quite affordable. In actuality, how much you're gonna use that car, it's in high performance, it's not that much different in the performance that you get out from the ordinary car. Given the speed limits that we have on our roads, people buy the sports cars because people want sports car. And it's not just engineers that make them want a sports car, it's designers. Designers, which and also architects, they have the skill of understanding not just what people like, but presenting features that make people want those things. And just to conclude, if you really want to get people to want to go to space, you got to show them why. And this is, just a few examples how you can design a real appealing um, interior design for space stations. So, what's design role and design principles in space exploration? As I said, there is around 56,000 people can afford to go to space right now, but there is only 7 people who were space tourists who actually stayed on the ISS for some period of time, and in total there were only 566 people who are mostly astronauts, and this is really about making space, you know, um, make people want to go to space. And there's the things that you can only experience in space. There's games that should be invented in space environments, such as floating spa, multimedia projection that react to one's movement, and then imagine like a small smart surfaces walls that can react to your movement and actually pulsate according to your music. And then there's huge room for imagination because there is no ceilings and no floors. Well, obviously I'm talking about weightlessness environment, so there's freedom of movement. And so this is really the time. It's still nascent, but it's really the period of time that we need to consider design as the tool that could affect our performance and improve it, and to break down the boredom of small spaces. Because first off, space habitats are extremely small, and there's no retreats, no forest, no nature where you can escape to. And in order to diversify the experience of users, we create sensory stimuli, unique experiences via air circulation and air purification, and difference in temperatures, difference in smells, difference in textures, and certain color schemes. It's really visually expands the environment of a small habitat, and you know, we design human-centered design interiors um, for truly stellar space voyager for both users, astronauts, and tourists. Oh, 1 second. I forgot to say something. So as I said that um, to, in 2005, NASA created this human research program, which tasked with investigation and mitigation of the greatest risk to astronauts' health. And not surprisingly, a major focus for the program has been on cognitive and psychiatric disorders, which can be the result of extended periods of space. So basically, it means that the longer we stay in space, and the mission to Mars will take at least 3 years, staying in a crowded in a really extremely small space of a space habitat with the same people who are not your family, who are probably not your friends, but it's better if it's your friend. So you're staying with people with who you're working, and it extremely affects our well-being. And you probably saw all these catastrophic events in space movies where basically people don't get along, and then there's just catastrophic event happening, and they couldn't make it to the end of the mission. And this is really what it means to create a design that affects our mood, affects our performance for the better. And our promise is to, if we could improve even 1% of performance or 1% of well-being, it basically means that it's already worth of trying. It's already worth of creating human-centered design for space habitats. And just really short about stellar amenities, what we do, and then I'm gonna jump into questions because I guess there's many questions. So the thing is that so we have space habitats, and they developed by systems engineers. It's pretty much extremely engineered field. And so what we do is that we don't work on the shelf of space habitat because it's just extremely engineering problem, as I said. And there's no, so far we couldn't, designers and architects cannot affect the shape of a habitat a lot, because the best physical shape for a pressurized vehicle is pretty much torus and donuts and the spheres and cylinders, and you cannot just run away from these shapes. It's just how it is. It's a really constraint that from which space architects start working from. And the rising demand in the private space sector, which you saw already videos, I already showed that there's a companies want to launch a balloon in space, they want to launch a space airline, and then Axiom Space Station that I also mentioned. It's going to be a very private space station where they want to host some first space tourists. So it's a rising demand, and there's no developed solutions for pleasing living so far. There's no combination between, because you cannot just ask a designer to work on space problems, because designers should be knowledgeable about what are problems that are in space, and understanding the engineering language, understanding what actually makes a spacecraft successful. So it's really a combination of science and technology and art. And then the rising demand in the private space sector really dictates its rules. And the habitable area cannot be suitable if it doesn't ensure the combination optimal functioning while being cost effective and favorable. And then when we look at the space habitats that they're current in the market, well, yeah, and there you could see that they pretty much using the most heaviest materials, which also understanding that the heavier you send something to space, the more money you pay. It basically means that if you send something that is extremely lightweight, you actually can afford to bring more. You can afford to bring more supplies. You can stay longer. So our some aspects of our firm is we making sure that we design lightweight structures. We design something that can be multi-purposely used, and all of this is actually lowering price of going to space, and obviously psychological and physiological factors. And not everyone can tolerate isolation and loneliness encountered in long space missions. But human-centered design can significantly relieve these issues. And obviously, uh, we are not architecture for without projects. So it's obvious that I would present some projects that we did before. It's so I started. My career started when I finished a urban planning degree, so it's architecture degree, and then I studied Masters of Science in Space Architecture at University of Houston, pretty much learning from experts of space industry, learning to understand what actually humans. Actually, let me check the sound. No problems. um, and so learning from these people, learning from actual users, learning from astronauts, which was just extremely amazing. It was just meeting astronauts in daily manner. It's just, and actually I got used to meet these incredible people. So, and started working on the pretty much conceptual side of space travel. I just really realized that in order to push forward, we need to, connect with our space industry. We designers need to connect with our space industry, understand their needs, and really educate our users and consumers, and who's actually going to buy this space habitat. We need to educate why design is important, why we need to have human-centered design, why they need to hire us, basically. And on the screen you see the projects that we've done before, and then I mostly it's as done I've done it personally. um, and then I found its Stellar in late 2018, so it's just less than a year ago. And with this move, I just really decided to transfer this conceptual work into something that you could see in space. So let me just walk you through these projects, just to explain what's going on. So this Earth snowflake you see on the left, it's pretty much a origami inspired shape. I developed it with our current chief technology officer, but to that time we just were friends. So we entered this proposal, and it's basically about you know extremely lightweight structure that can be stored in a fairing of a rocket and then can be deployed 26 times bigger than its stored size. And basically, we also implemented some 3D printing features in the interior design, because once this capsule expands, it the interior design inside is also pretty much expandable. And we with this design we won People's Choice Prize. It was the competition, probably the biggest competition on Mars habitation in 2018. And then next project was pretty much, I was questioning myself, well, once we land on Mars, what's going to be next? Like, where are we going to be going? Where all the settlements is going to be happening, and how big the settlement is going to be? Since I already said that I graduated with a degree in urban planning, and was a grad thesis in architecture school. And it was pretty much understanding what are resources on Mars, and then according to resources where city is going to be built, and then what are the transportations going to be. And then you see this net, kind of a system of nets, and basically transportation system. Like, first off, we understand how long astronaut can walk without supplies, and then how far away rover can go, and then you understand how long the other, like, I imagine that is going to be hopper loop, so how long hopper loop can go without stops. And then more and more, and then eventually I finished with airlines. That, yeah, also remembering that this environment is not what we have on Earth, and it's just there's no air, and it's 1/3 of gravity. So when you first start designing for extraterrestrial environment, you need to make sure that you first look at the restrictions that is given. And then the third project is pretty much combining two users, space tourists and researchers. So it means astronauts, space tourists and astronauts. And there was work that done for Houston-based aerospace company, and it was just a wonderful experience. And the next project is Martian null habitat in Iceland, it's an inflatable project, and it was done within Fourth Planet Logistics. I was working with this incredible team for some short of time, and we developed an inflatable habitat that can be moved from one spot to another, and it takes extremely small space, and then could be deployed in even on surface of Mars. And the reason why we built this in a lava tube, it's because some people think that it would be better to start building to start placing space habitats in lava tubes in caves of Mars, so we prevent radiation exposure. And I kind of agree, but also I disagree with this point. I can have another talk about that, but let's kind of go on. So next project was I was invited to work at MIT Media Lab. It's basically self-assembling space station that's made of hexagonal tiles, And I was working on interior design, making sure that it's all the interior provides a tactile experience, provides you even meditation corridor, and pretty much making sure that functionality and aesthetics are considered, and pretty much understanding how we could create a playful experience in space, because we all want to have fun. And the best probably place to have fun is in space. And then the most recent project was efficient chair for Mars. The furniture that's ever been developed for the Moon and Mars is just extremely bulky and heavy, and we decided to use yeah, telescopic poles, telescopic fiber poles to pretty much create 1/5 weight of the chair that usually used to be considered to be sent to Mars and the Moon. And then we use extremely lightweight materials, but also doable. So yeah, and could be also deployed. So more projects, like more information on this project, you could find on our website, staramentis.space. Because yeah, we have 10 minutes left. And I just wanted to say that, as already mentioned, we are not designing a space habitat itself like a shelf. We are taking a space habitat that's already, with subsystems in there that already have life support system and waste management, and then we try to work with engineers to develop interior design that actually improves our well-being and provides some comfort. So this is where we are. And just really shortly, so we understand that in space movies, there's some details that could be much better developed than they are, and sometimes space movies are not really reflecting the real picture. What would happen on Mars or on the Moon, and they really like to emphasize a disastrous event that could happen. And we also understand that it's really a good way to make sure that science can be beneficial. Science can be beneficial to these sci-fi movies, and we collaborate with filmmakers to on the interior design and also on the overall structure of space habitation. And we also provide a vision of how humanity can live in space, but try to really step back from the torus shaped space station and imagine how it could be cool to have something different, have something that can be replicated in space, and something that not only just taking a piece of Earth to space, but also creating extremely new experience, extremely new biomes, you call it, or climates. And also, I host space architecture talks. It's where I invite sci-fi writers and space architects and designers who is working with NASA and other entities to really discuss what it takes to become multi-planetary species, what are issues we're going to face, and what are design solutions that could be implemented. I just hosted a third event I haven't uploaded yet, and I'm going to upload it later. So basically, if you want to watch it, you can find it on Stellar Mantis YouTube channel. And yeah, you can connect with us. Don't hesitate to shoot a message to us. We are really responsive. And thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And I hope I really excite you, and I hope it was really inspirational. And yeah, I'm really ready for taking questions. Let me see. Question is, can I describe the habitat in the picture that's here? So yeah, so this is it's inflatable habitat. It's inside of an inflatable habitat, and the floor is also deployable. So it's pretty much the way how you send this space habitat. It's a lunar space habitat, basically. So you stow the whole volume, and it takes, I think, like 5 or 6 meters to stow, and then it deploys around 10 times of its size. And then it uses this extremely transparent material that also prevents radiation, provides radiation protection. And you can see that there's some modular boxes that can be placed from one space to another. I see it on the right and on the left. And Cheer was inspired, honestly, from 2001 Space Odyssey. It's one of my favorite movies. And yeah, and you can actually, yeah, I see thumbs up. um, so this this is pretty much a laboratory, but once we have more people coming and more habitats to place, this habitat could be reconfigured into another space. For example, a living quarter, or a dining experience. And yeah, this is. I also want to say that space architecture really reflects the idea of living small, and you've all heard about tiny housing movement that basically says that we can live more with less. Minimalist movement as well, living in small apartments, living in extremely urbanized places such as downtowns of big cities, LA, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. And we use this methodology, like creating for small spaces, pretty much everywhere. And one of the area where you can use it's pretty much space habitats, because space habitats are extremely small. So the second question is there a specific software used to design? So I would say that at NASA, when you get this space architecture degree, most of people they go to work at NASA Johnson Space Center, in a habitation center, where you actually work on the next generation space habitats. And as I know, they used Rhinoceros as a software. It's architecture software. In my work, we use different tools. We use Fusion 360. We use we use a virtual reality headset almost all the time, to first off even sketch in 360 degrees, but also really understanding how much volume takes, how much our design takes volume. And we also use Revit architecture sometimes. It really depends on what kind of project I be working on. And there's some other, like Unreal Engine. It's for rendering and really simulating how habitat's gonna work. But there are also like some system engineer programs that I don't use it, because some of my teammates they use it. I'm not sure what's the name of their tools. So yeah. Yeah, by the way, I want to say that it was such an incredible opportunity to give a talk within LA Design Festival. It's really one of the inspiring events in LA. And I used to live in LA, but currently I live in Big Bear Lake. It's like 2 hours away from LA. But basically, the previous year event was such an amazing venue. And I had my friend Melody Yasha. She was presenting on the Mars habitat, and it's just extremely cool to see that public is getting interested on how to design for space and what our tools could be used. The other question is, when do you see space hotels really taking off? Well, it could happen in like 4 or 5 years, as I said. There's a company called Axiom Space. They developing a space station, including a hotel there. I wouldn't call it just a hotel as a separate unit. I would say that it's gonna be like a space station for mostly research purposes, but one of the modules is gonna be for tourist purposes. Because let's be honest, there's not such a demand in terms of space tourists, and it's just much more convenient and economically efficient to have a space research station and then have one of the modules for space tourism. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I see, Bill, you said axioms. Yeah. Sounds good. So just really to conclude, yeah. Let me conclude a little bit, and then it's going to be the last question I'm going to answer. So basically, human-centered design is extremely like this is one of the key components that's going to save us. It's really if you wanted to become multi-planetary species, and eventually it's going to happen, we need to make sure that we work with the best designers ever to complement space habitats with you know tools that makes this space feels bigger, provide tactile experience, because astronauts report that the lack of they have sensory deprivation once they stay more than 6 months in space. And what could help is designers can help, but in our space it's not really considered that designers are the best um, you know investment that could be done right now. We're still in the point that we need to make sure that spacecraft works, spacecraft takes off, and doesn't explode. It's still such a risk. But at the same time, as we are talking about lunar exploration, Mars exploration, missions becoming longer, and yeah, this is a huge opportunity for us designers to engage with space exploration, to really help us as a human race to thrive beyond Earth. But also would add that space architecture is not only restricted to space, but also to extreme environments on Earth, such as designing for Antarctic, designing for places that they're there's extremely disasters, desert, underwater, underground. And then the last question is, yeah, just so Bigelow is the company that used to that was focused on inflatables, and they launched their beams module that was attached on the ISS, International Space Station, and they were about to launch an orbital space station. That's really, getting back to the question when we're gonna see space station, space hotels taking off, and now because of coronavirus, Bigelow Aerospace just laid off everyone, and there was such a sad news, and that's extremely sad. I really hope. I kind of know Robert Bigelow, the founder, personally, so I really hope that he would think twice. He does have funding for the company. He probably sometimes doesn't have enough. I don't know. Um, doesn't have this propelling vision towards space exploration, because in space exploration it takes much longer to do something that in any other parts, in any other businesses in the world. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you today. I hope you're enjoying LA Design Festival, and I just gonna go ahead and watch other talks of extremely talented designers. Again, thank you so much. Please follow us on social media. You can find us and email if you have any questions. And talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.